at Sol 707. This was taken way back in 2014, this set of images, and also Sol 710, which is this page here. Lots of interesting shots of the ridgeline, and in fact they actually cover basically the same area, but obviously Sol 710 is a few days later and it's a bit further along the ridgeline and a little bit closer. So you can see some of the things a bit closer up. And some quite well-known anomalies were found in this area a few years ago, about 4 years ago now, and some of them were in the press. Okay, and I'll touch on one or two of those in a minute. But the main image I've got up here is in my graphics processor. Now, this is a Gigapan I put together myself. I've got the raw Gigapan at the bottom here, and the processed one at the top, which is clearer and brighter and got more contrast in it, and it's been color corrected, so it's a bit bluer. Okay, so without further ado, now what I've done here, just to save time, because I don't want to spend 40 minutes on this, I've marked some of the things in this image that I've found over the last couple of days. I've been going over a lot of the older sols because some of them are quite good, and this was one of the better ones because the image, the raw image is fairly clear, even though it's a bit pasty looking when you zoom in. But what I might do is put some extra clips of these in at the end of the video, these certain things, so you can freeze frame it and see them close up and enhanced as well. I show the raw image, then enhanced like I always do. So here we go. Here's the first thing. Now you've got this ridgeline here, which goes all the way along here. It's a long ridgeline. And we're going to start in the top corner here, and we've got this sloping rock here with something underneath it here. Now this was weird, and I've actually done some clips of this already. I'll show you them now, and then I'll put them in again at the end. Here's the raw clip. What the hell is that underneath this rock? You've got a very strange object with what looks like, it kind of reminded me of like a knight's helmet, you know, like the sort of knights who used to joust each other and stuff, you know, like back in the sort of 11th, 12th century, 13th century. Like, well, well, I don't know. I'm not saying that's what it is, of course. I'm just saying it resembles something like that. Let's have a look at this one where I've enhanced it. I've cleaned that up a bit, and I've color corrected it and brightened it quite a lot. There we have it. I've added some contrast in there. What the hell is it? It's got this strange kind of slot there, almost like there you could look through, you know? Really odd. There's another closer enhancement here. I think that's a bit closer, yeah. It doesn't get very sharp when you zoom in because this is quite out of focus, like everything's out of focus. So if you get too close, it doesn't look great. Go back a bit. What the hell is it? Don't know. I wasn't really sure what to call this anomaly at all. I probably won't even give this a name, I don't know. This is why I'm kind of focusing on the whole area. There's also this weird thing on the ground which looks like a dead dodo or something. Now imagine that. Now I could be wrong here, of course, and this may just be pareidolia kind of swinging into effect here, but these look like two big fat legs here of like a flightless bird, like a dodo or a sort of ostrich type thing, and this is the body, and that's a thigh there, and another leg there, and that looks like a knee joint. Now, of course, a lot of these flightless birds have a knee joint facing backwards, and their legs bend the other way to mammals. Mammals' legs kind of tend to bend one way, and theirs kind of bend the other way, if you see what I mean. So it's like a knee just there. Let me show you the enhanced clip of that. Now all I've done there is clean it up, brighten it, and color correct it. Is that a beak there? Is that a head and a neck? Are these huge thigh parts here, here and here? Is this a torso? Is that part of a foot here? And that could just be a rock there, but this looks like it's joined to there. You got a reverse knee joint there almost, and what look like feet, massive kind of feet and bones. Could it be? Could it be another example of a freeze-dried sort of mud fossil, freeze-dried creature that turned into a mud fossil here? Very odd indeed. I could be way off the mark here. I could be just seeing things, but to me, that looks like a dead animal, like a bird, like a flightless bird, or perhaps even a dinosaur. This area is so full of things. I'm quickly going to go over that. There's that one I just showed you, and that other thing is just below it. So they're right next to each other. We got the weird knight's helmet thing just there in the Gigapan. And in fact, it's in the same singular image, so you can download that. I'll put links to all these images as well below, so you can download these. In fact, it looks a bit clearer there because it's brighter. That to me looks like a dead animal. You've got legs, two big fat legs. It's like, it reminded me of a Christmas dinner when you have sort of big fat turkey on the table, you know, and you've got these big fat kind of thighs and stuff. How strange is that? And that really does look like a beak here. Upper part, lower part, head. I mean, if it's fossilized, it could be, you know, and sort of like a mud fossil, bits of it are broken off, and it's like bits of it are broken, but how strange. Anyway, let's crack on with this because we'll be here all day otherwise. Now, there's also what looks like here. Now, this also may be another case of pareidolia, and just holes in the rock. But this looks like a giant kind of skull with a jawbone here, and maybe an eye socket here and another one here. Now, I haven't done anything to that yet. I'll take a clip of that and then turn it round. But these, to me, look like teeth here. Can you see them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, possibly 7. And this looks like a jawbone coming around. So could this be another mud fossil kind of artifact or specimen, I should say, that's encrusted into the mud and dried out into a kind of fossil like that? Now, there's some more things over here. There was this weird rock here. Now, this looks like it's got a chain hanging down from it. Or that could be the light just passing through the crack in the rock here and then hitting this rock. Can't really tell either way. The light seems to be coming from a sort of 12 o'clock position here. So that may be right. That may just be the way the light's shining through the rock there. There's like a hole just here, a gap, and it's coming down. Maybe or maybe not, don't know. There are these two things. One of them looks like a piece of coral which is balanced on this rock here, which is really odd, and you got this weird thing here with a kind of almost square part to it sticking up. Now, a lot of people have shown these in the past, and no one's ever really come up with a good explanation for these, and I don't know if I can either. Really odd. And these actually show up better in Sol 710. I'll show you that in a minute. You get a bit of a close-up of these and a bit more detail. You've got all these weird things in the background. Now, I think this whole blue-ish kind of smoothed out area, it goes right along the back here. I think a lot of it's been smudged over by NASA, because we've been looking at this area now for years, and sometimes you can see objects quite clearly, like this thing. There's an object here, like a kind of boat-shaped object, balanced on this kind of area. You see that? Now, in some images, you can see it from miles away, from right early on. In some images, it looks really clear and with a really defined shadow. And later on, it's completely blurred out. And it seems almost like the closer you get to it, the less detail you can see. and the less defined shape you can see. So of course it may be down to the light angle and the way the sun is on this particular image, but this thing appears in dozens and dozens of souls, and you can see it in the background, and sometimes it really does look like a boat. Also we have what I called the crocodile here. Now this one I managed to get years ago, back in 2014. I sent this clip to the press, and they went a bit mad about it and actually published it. And I've got one of those articles up here. You type in crocodile on Mars and scroll down. It was in the Express, it was in the Metro, it was in the Daily Mail, it was in the Daily Star, it was in the, and a whole load of other newspapers copied those stories from them, as they do. And it went went slightly viral for a few days. Anyway, it didn't go crazy, but they've got, you know, those two images are my clips that I took in Google Images. So I'll have a link to one or two of those stories as well if you want to check that out. It's pretty patronising nonsense as usual, as you would expect from the mainstream media, who thrive on BS and perpetuate it. And when something real comes along, they sort of ridicule it. Very strange. Now, this may well just be a rock, but could it be? Could it be an actual fossilised mud fossil of some sort, of a creature? And it does seem to have a kind of jaw overhang in exactly the right place there. Now, what I'll do is I'll put a clip of I'll put a link to the video about this at the end of this, okay? I've got it up here somewhere. Here it is. And when you look at it up close, the jaw and sort of teeth detail is almost identical, where you have the upper part of the jaw overlapping the lower part in the same place. Okay, it's very specific detail, and I think it could be something. Who knows? But I'll let you make your own mind up about that. And if you look at the images, let's go to the images here, because it might show them a bit larger. Now, yeah, look carefully here at this detail here. You've got teeth that come over the bottom jaw and one that kind of sticks up here. You've got a similar kind of detail here and here on this image here. So who knows? But is that a coincidence? I don't know. It could be, but to me that is a very, very specific detail that seems to match this here. Okay, but then they showed this as well, which is one I sent them in as well, which was the Canon. So it goes on about me, ArtAlienTV and all this thing, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's not a rock. Rocks don't have poles sticking out of them, or like a gun-shaped thing sticking out. That ain't a rock. And then you've got more of this blurred out area here. It's all kind of blurred out. There's no detail whatsoever. There are blatant structures in here that have been, what they seem to have been blurred over and covered up, because it just looks pasty. And I know this is a long way off. Between here and there is probably another kilometre or 2 even, between this ridgeline and that one. Okay, so that is a lot further away, but you'd expect to see more definition in here, and it's all kind of pasty and blurred. We also have these weird sort of diagonal lines here. Now this is the area which I called the Mars Dome entrance, which has had a lot of views, and you've got this weird long straight feature, and you can actually see in here that there is some structures in here. So you've got these diagonal lines there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 of them. And if you look carefully along here, you've got a load of squares as they come along. There's like a row. It almost looks like a train. I'm not saying it is a train, but it's like windows on a train going along here. So there's something going on there, but we've never really had a proper clear view of it. And a lot of people have said, "Oh, you're making it up." No, I'm not. There is something here, this is completely blurred out. There are other angles of this where it is darker, and you can see that there's an entrance into this dome, and the weird structure right by it, by the entrance. But every time you see a photograph of it, it's blurred out, or they chop part of it off, or it's been obfuscated, and it's blatant that they're covering something up there, and they do that with these images. They do actually cover up a lot of the detail, and they blur them. They downgrade the images, as we know. There's a weird object here, which looks like a kind of little house, just perched on the edge of this kind of butte here, whatever that is. I mean, a lot of these buttes I just don't think are buttes at all. I think some of these are completely eroded buildings, and we're just seeing the remains of them. I mean, what the hell's that? Perched on the end there, like that. And there's also this weird thing, which I never spotted before, just here. Can you see that? There's a kind of rectangular object here with a circular object in it there, and another weird thing here. I mean, it looks like it's all been obfuscated. And there's what I call the Mars shipwreck or whatever in the background. Now that's another example of where it's been completely blurred out, and we have had close-ups of this recently, and it doesn't resemble anything that I've been looking at for the last 5 years. And now I've been looking at this literally for 4 or 5 years, this thing, and we've been getting closer and closer, and then the close-ups look like they've been heavily doctored to make it look normal, like rocks. But actually, I still go by that. I still think it's some kind of ship or intelligence structure. But yeah, what's this here? I don't know if you can make that out. There's a kind of boat-shaped thing here. I'll take a clip of that and enhance it for you. Just here. And there's a weird thing there, which I've never spotted before. So it is worth going back over some of these older images, because you often see things that you missed. We've got that same pointy rock here on the ridgeline, but we're actually in closer. And you can see these in better detail now, these two things here. This thing looks like a very oddly balanced object with kind of strange details on it, almost like coral. And you've got that weird thing there. And that is obviously part of something. I mean, honestly, look at it. That has to be part of something. And this is the famous crab that was found and was all over the press. And in fact, when you look at it, it's kind of like a circular thing with appendages sticking out. But the image that was in the press was quite heavily doctored, I think, and it was also taken from a doctored image. I mean, and it had lots of compression lines and crap sticking through it. And I think what they did is they enhanced the compression lines and got some details that weren't necessarily there. But there is something there. So it may well be some kind of fossilized creature stuck on the rock there, like an old crab or mollusk or some other strange underwater creature. So there we are. There was more detail in this one, and you can also see up here, we've got more details of the Forbidden City up here. The ruined Forbidden City that NASA never speak about. And only us researchers and civilians are allowed to, for some reason. So yeah, there we have it. So both of these Gigapans will be on my page for you to download on ArtAlienTV Mars magazine. Hopefully they'll be at the top of the page here for you, and you can just download them, but they are going to be large. So there we are. So that was it really. We still don't really understand fully the story of what happened here, although there probably was a nuclear war. And as I keep saying, I think it was 1941. I don't think it was millions of years ago, because otherwise all this stuff would be completely disintegrated by now. You know, these fossils would have eroded away. The specimens and mummies like we got here. This is the one I published the other day. Check this out if you haven't checked it out already. This is one of the best finds ever. This was found by Sarah Runcie, who's a great researcher from the US. And she found this recently and posted it on Facebook, and I had a chat with her and did a video about it. And yeah, that is one of the clearest examples of a Martian you're ever going to see. And you can see his beard, his moustache, nose, eyes. He's got some weird kind of braided hair or hat or headdress with some kind of clip, like a hair clip, possibly bone or something, holding it in place. Really, really cool. Looks a bit like Karl Marx for some reason. But check that out. I don't think it's a statue, because generally statues are of living people, even though they're often made of people after they die. They usually show them in a living light. In other words, with their eyes open and looking normal. Okay, this guy's got his eyes shut and has got some facial distortion. This looks like a mummified head. And like I said in this video, I think a lot of these were buried in these areas, in these mounds and ridges that we see now. And but they were buried in a sitting position, not lying down. And as the sand is eroded away from wind erosion, the heads then appear. Now, some of them are buried up to the eyes, and some are buried up to the nose, and some are buried up to the chin, depending on where they are and how much of the sand has been blown away. So I think there are sitting mummies, like you would get in Nazca in Peru, where people were buried in a kind of sitting position and bound with a shroud, but with their head showing, often with some ceremonial headgear or headdress or hairstyle. That was common in Peru as well. So interesting. And also check out the boot as well. That's doing pretty well at the moment. And the Mars rover runs over Martian. That one's caused a bit of stink. And also the pointed dome on Mars is really cool. There's no way that's possibly a rock. So check out these recent finds if you haven't already, because these are some of the best I've ever published. And you can also check out the links for some of these stories about that crocodile. Some of them are quite funny. Most of them are very patronising and stupid. But that's what you'd expect from the mainstream media. Sorry. Because that's what they do. They don't deal in sensible analysis. They deal in ridicule and BS, rumour, lies, innuendo, and fake news. And often they use innuendo and lies to back up the lies and innuendo they said last week, rather than coming clean and admitting they got it wrong. They often get things wrong. And I'm not saying this is a crocodile, but it really does look like one. And that's quite a good close-up, actually. You can see that overlap. Okay. So, could it be? I think it could. It's not living. As far as I know. None of this stuff's moved, so these things were all dead. And if there were living things in this area, we'd have seen some tracks by now. Now, I've been looking at the ground in this area now for years now, and I haven't seen any evidence of animal tracks or human tracks in the sand. So there's no sign of anything living here as such, but there may have been quite recently, as I've said before. So check out those other things. Check out this video if you haven't seen it, the Mars Mummy, Bearded Martian Man, because there is some extraordinary detail in there, which is probably one of the best examples you'll ever see of a Martian, up close and in detail. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and share it on social media. I'll see you soon.